Today we're talking about 10 PS5 games with some of the most realistic graphics you'll find on any system. That includes PC, and yes, you can play every single one of them right now. The PS5 has been in stores for nearly 3 years, and we've already seen quite a few games with incredibly realistic graphics. Consoles have come a long way and are pumping out games with lifelike details, super clear 4K visuals, effects like ray tracing, and more. Number 10, Demon's Souls. One of the launch titles for PS5 is still among the best looking games on the system. It's all thanks to developer Bluepoint Games and the remake of what was originally a PS3 game. Booting this up for the first time was visually breathtaking and gave early PS5 owners a standout title to showcase the power of their new system. Comparing this back to the original shows just how far we've come in roughly a decade since the PS3 version's release. The environments, lighting, shadows, volumetric effects, and realistic water are all on full display here. Character models are striking too. I took so many screenshots just in the little hub area because I was constantly in awe of these environments. There's a lot of enemies in the game, and while realistic may not be the best description for these creatures, the level of detail here makes it easy to imagine if the creatures actually were real. Much of the armor and weaponry looks as if it was ripped straight from the Middle Ages. The lighting and particle effects are just as remarkable. There's also a lot here in the world that reacts with realistic physics as you move through it. And this all comes together in the combat with realistic animations and blood spatter as you attack. In what has become a common trend this generation, there are 2 visual modes. You can choose if you want better visuals or better frame rate. The cinematic mode is in 4K with a 30 FPS target, where the performance mode runs at a consistent 60 FPS while running at a lower res. And that's true for most of the games on this list, so I'm not going to call that out every time, but just know you have the option with most of these games to choose what you want to prioritize with your experience. Number 9. The Last of Us Part 1. When The Last of Us released on the PS3, it was already a standout title when it comes to visuals. It struggled with performance though, which is probably why Sony remade it for the PS4. What many didn't expect though was for them to remake it again on the PS5. And regardless of how you feel about the decision and whether or not this remake was warranted, there's no denying how impressive things are here. This version has been fully remade for the PS5. Now, Naughty Dog does pretty consistently step up their game in the visual department. They've been doing it for years, and that's all on full display here with this version of The Last of Us. The character models and facial animations are among the best in the industry, especially when it comes to consoles. The lighting, skin tones, even the wrinkles on Joel's forehead, they bring these characters to life. There's also no denying the standout performances by Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson really helped to sell that illusion of realism even more. The environment's just as impressive here. Take this early game scene from Sarah's bedroom and these interior shots inside houses. It's one of the things that Naughty Dog just does so well. Maybe it's because so many other games have us in these fantastical settings, but there's just something about the simplicity of a modern home and a bedroom that makes us feel like we're right there with these characters. From the pictures and posters on the wall to the overflowing laundry. Gotta say, love the soccer jersey. You parents out there, you know all too well about having to quickly wash the uniform for the next game. Then when Sarah goes into the bedroom, you have this shot where she looks out the window and sees the explosions. It's a very brief shot, but the framing here of us being inside this very real, very familiar home to then viewing these explosions outside, it really helps to put you right there with Sarah to feel that fear that she's experiencing in that moment. And considering most of the game takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, you might think these moments would end with the beginning of the game. As we progress though, Naughty Dog again puts us in these very familiar locations like a house or a shop, only now we see the effects of the outbreak and so much time passing. Number 8. Lies of P. This game has blown me away in so many ways since its release back in September. It went from being a title I'd never heard of to now being one of my favorite games of the year. It's amazing to see such a quality game, not only in the visual department, but across the board, released from such an unknown developer. I mean, these guys don't even have their own Wikipedia page. Lies of P is based loosely on the classic story of Pinocchio, and it's set in the fictional world of Krot. Definitely some BioShock vibes, and obviously the big influence here is Bloodborne. The environment, the atmosphere, the game makes no effort to hide how much it's been influenced by From Software's titles. Those environments, they're appropriately grim here, and the visuals really help to sell that you're making your way through what was once a vibrant city. The statues, marble floors, and Gothic architecture, they look fantastic here running on an Unreal Engine 4. We get some nice weather effects and puddles that reflect realistically, excellent physics on our main character with the hair flowing in the wind and cloth reacting to your movement. There are also some nice elemental effects with fire and lightning, among others. When it comes to the weaponry and enemy designs, the attention to detail here really shows the artistic talent of the team at NeoWiz. Seriously, if you were on the fence at all about this one, it's absolutely worth playing and not just for the visuals. Number 7, Hogwarts Legacy. The visual showcase here certainly surprised many people in the industry. By now, more and more people are learning the story of Avalanche Software, a studio that had focused mostly on making licensed kid games before Hogwarts Legacy. The biggest thing that sticks out here from the moment you reach Hogwarts is the remarkable presentation of the school itself. It's a place many of us are familiar with from the books, and while we saw it come to life in the movies, there's just something even more special about being able to explore the castle on your own in a 3D space. The attention to detail here is astounding, and everything from the architecture to the lighting to the tiny little details of the world they had to know, only the most diehard fans would notice. The game takes place over the course of a full school year, so we get to see all 4 seasons. Winter is my favorite season in Hogwarts Legacy by far. We get to see the castle and the surrounding highlands in the snow, and it feels like a scene right out of the movies. I've always loved snow levels and snow effects in games. I'm not sure what it is exactly, there's just something so cozy about curling up under a blanket while making your way through a snowy area in a game. It's not only the outdoors though, because the decorations in and around Hogwarts changed with the seasons as well. In addition to Hogwarts, there's also an early game section featuring Gringotts, and pretty early you also get access to Hogsmeade, and both of these locations are recreated with that same level of polish that you see with Hogwarts. The character models are pretty strong, even if the mocap and the facial animations felt a little off at times. Then we have the spell and magic effects, which I guess we can't describe as realistic, but they definitely look how I imagine magic would look, if it were actually real. One of the very first things I noticed is the subtle trail of smoke that appears when you cast spells. It's such a little thing, but all those little things, they really have a way of adding up. There are so many of these moments where you can see how Avalanche went the extra mile to polish this game. And honestly, seeing them do such a great job with Hogwarts has me hopeful that we'll get a DLC or sequel with even more locations, like, say, the Ministry of Magic. Number 6, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Alright, I thought Spider-Man looked pretty good on the PS4, but man, oh man, did Insomniac really up their game with Miles Morales on the PS5. It also seems like they're doing the same thing with Spider-Man 2, which would have almost certainly been on this list if you could, play it right now. Who knows, maybe by the time you're watching this, you actually can play it. Either way though, even once that game is out, you can't go wrong with Miles Morales. Like Demon's Souls, this title released alongside the PS5 and was yet another visual showcase for Sony's new system. Alright, you already know how much I love snow in games, and with the events here taking place right around Christmas, we get to see not only snow, but holiday lights and decorations as well. As great as things look in the fidelity mode, I just can't give up the performance mode on this one. The combat and web slinging, they're obviously two of the standout features here, and at least for me, Insomniac's silky smooth animations, they look and feel so much better on that performance mode. Now remember how I said I thought the original on PS4 looked and felt great? It's so funny how those things stick in your mind and you remember it a certain way, but then when you actually go back, which is what I did, I went back and played that version. I was thinking about going for the Platinum Trophy, may still end up doing it, but I was shocked at the downgrade. It was just way more of a difference than what I was expecting. Huge leap from Spider-Man on PS4 to Spider-Man on PS5. Now if Spider-Man 2 is able to improve on the graphics of Miles Morales in any way at all, we're certainly in for another visual treat. Number 5, Gran Turismo 7. Truth be told, I've never been a huge fan of racing games. That being said, I cannot deny how they've long been some of the most visually impressive video games on any system. That's certainly true here with Gran Turismo 7. One of the most popular gaming franchises of all time, the 7th installment took the series back to its roots, complete with visuals that show off what the PS5 can do. Of course, everything starts with the car models, and Gran Turismo knocks it out of the park here. The tires, the headlamps, the fenders, virtually every part you would expect to see on a real-world version of the car is present here. Even the interiors show off Polyphony's commitment to making the cars as realistic as possible. I mean, think about this. Unless you actually play using the cockpit view, where you really look carefully in replays, you're not even going to see this. But just notice the different appearance of the materials in the car here, both on the steering wheel and on the seats. This is true for every single car in the game. While the cars are certainly important, what really takes this game to the next level are the time of day and weather effects. The clouds are dynamic and they actually move to go along with the weather. And with this, the lighting constantly shifts and changes based on the clouds and the sun. All the while, light reflects realistically on the car's surfaces and areas of the track. When it rains, you get these mist particles, and if you prefer the game's cockpit view, you'll even need to use your windshield wipers to clear away the rain as you drive. Number 4. The Matrix Awakens demo. Unfortunately on this one, you can only play it right now if you already claimed it on your PS5. You see, back in September of 2022, Epic released a playable Unreal Engine 5 tech demo featuring characters from the Matrix. This demo gave gamers a first-hand look at what graphics may look like in the very near future. The near photorealism of Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss was really impressive. Close-up shots showed off eyebrows, skin tones, shadows, wrinkles, nearly every single detail on these two actors. Then the demo shifts shifts into a car chase section. The gameplay here isn't anything out of the ordinary, and some would even say it felt a little dated, but that's not really the point of the demo. It was all about showcasing what's possible in terms of visuals, and everything you see here just looks incredible. And of course, it's important that we remember all this is happening in a very controlled, contained space. But as you're going through this car chase, you've got sparks, smoke, glass breaking, frequent explosions. It's all just a visual feast for the eyes, and does a great job doing exactly what Epic set out to do. Once you're finished with that car chase scene, you get a little more freedom to explore and to really take in all the finer details, of which there are plenty in both the city and the vehicles. Even the NPCs look pretty good here. Now, if you ever downloaded this to your system or even just claimed it on your account, you should still have access, but for whatever reason, it was completely removed a few months after the initial release. Number 3. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. Now, similar to Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut gives us a look at what was originally a PS4 game, now taking full advantage of the power of the PS5. Obviously, there's a resolution boost here to 4K, as well as enhanced image quality compared to PS4. One of the big improvements came with the real-time rendering of cutscenes that were previously pre-rendered, and this change really helps to improve the lip syncing with the Japanese dialogue. This version of the game offers a stable 60 frames per second, and on top of that, load times were significantly reduced as well. Now, I could go on and on about the technical side of the improvements here, but to be totally honest with you, the game looked downright stunning on the PS4. And of course, it still looks stunning here on the PS5. It's all thanks to the artists and animators over at Sucker Punch. The cloth physics, wind effects, foliage, weather, it really is the total package here. And I have to give huge props to the devs here on what has actually become a pet peeve of mine, the total absence of a UI, at least when you're exploring a game. For me, it always helps me to get more immersed in the world. Let me take in all the beauty of a game that your team clearly worked so hard on crafting. So many games these days, they're just cluttered with so much UI. Now, of course, once you get into a battle and need to use weapons or items, a UI will appear, but it's all very minimal and only shows exactly what you need. And because of the fact that it's dynamic, it seamlessly fades away the second you no longer need it. I honestly wish so many games would just do this exact thing. Let us see more of the world that you built without the clutter of that UI, especially in those moments when we don't actually need it for any gameplay function. Number 2. Horizon Forbidden West. Here we have yet another open world game, and truthfully, I'm only now realizing just how impressive it is that so many of the games on this list, a list about incredibly realistic graphics, are in fact open world. When I was a kid playing video games, it was often the case that the best looking games were much more contained experience. And while that is still certainly true, I mean, we just talked about Gran Turismo 7, which is a very specific type of game, but the fact that so many open world games are looking this realistic now is really impressive. Even as recently as the first few Uncharted games, they were highly limited in how much you could explore. And that certainly has its advantages, as we've seen, but even Naughty Dog has been slowly adding more and more open areas to their games. But with Forbidden West, you have this fully open world and jaw-dropping graphics, all thanks to Guerrilla's Decima engine. Many have praised Horizon specifically for its facial animations and skin tones. Not only are these characters lifelike in their appearance, but also in how they talk and move, which has long been a tricky thing for games to nail. Like Ghost of Tsushima, the foliage, water rendering, reflections, and lighting, even the ground textures are outstanding here. You also have volumetric effects like fog, and at times it's hard not to just stop and take in the beautiful skyboxes that are highlighted even more by the wide range of biomes that you'll visit. Guerrilla even added underwater exploration, where things are equally astounding. Then there are the machines, which showcase another big leap compared to the first game on PS4. There are new and improved animations for climbing and swimming, as well as a more robust destruction system. I've seen many fans and commentators actually label Forbidden West as the best looking PS5 game ever. In my mind, at least right now, there's really only one game that tops it. And of course, it's all subjective, but for me, number 1, God of War Ragnarok. I do have one bonus game that I just have to mention next, but in my mind, the top spot goes to what is not only one of the best titles to show off the PS5's graphical capabilities, but also one of the best titles on the system, period. For me, I just have to start with the character model of Kratos. I mean, at this point, he's one of the most iconic characters in video games and one of the closest things PlayStation has to a mascot. Of course, it makes total sense that they would want his PS5 debut to show him off in all his full godly glory, and the model here is better than it's ever been. Now, I couldn't find the official numbers in terms of poly counts on Kratos for Ragnarok, but we know that in the PS4 version of God of War 2018, he had 80,000 polygons in total, with 32,000 for the face alone. Now, it's one thing to hear those numbers, which, let's be honest, unless you're an animator yourself, it's hard for us to really make sense of those. But when you see the cutscenes here in-game, how the character moves and talks, and then you actually take control of him in playable form, it honestly takes a moment to actually believe what you're seeing, especially if you're someone around my age. I mean, I remember seeing the cold breath of football players on the PS2 version of Madden, and I thought graphics can't possibly get any better than this. And then here, now, today, we have something that looks like this. Of course, all the technical bells and whistles are great, but it's really the art style here. Again, this time from the folks at Sony Santa Monica that helped to set this one apart from virtually everything else available on a console right now. The armor, the weapons, the particle effects, in addition to the vast range of different environments you'll find yourself in. Did I mention there's snow? Lots of snow. Now, we have to be totally fair here when comparing this to something like Forbidden West, because admittedly, it's not a truly open world. Ragnarok does a great job of giving you the illusion of being open world, and that certainly plays a factor in how much these games can do and how far they can push the system. I do have one bonus title, and it's one you may be surprised not to see on this list. It's Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Based purely on a graphics perspective alone, I don't know that I have seen anything more impressive, more stunning than Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Of course, the reason it's not here on this list today is that it's a much more stylized game, looking better than a Pixar movie at times, instead of going for something like true-to-life realism. That's right, I said it, better than a Pixar movie at times. Don't believe me? Check out the video on the left side of your screen now for my full breakdown. Big thanks to all of our channel members for their support, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.